Namaste and a good day to all of you. Welcome to the panel discussion on the sample question paper of Class 12, Term 2 Computer Science, organized by Confederation of Kerala Sahodaya Complexes, an umbrella organization for the Sahodaya Complexes of Kerala, committed to handhold CBSE schools in Kerala. The Confederation, through its academic and training wing, has been instrumental in bringing professionalism to our fraternity. This panel discussion is designed to empower the teachers of CBSE affiliated schools who train students for the CBSE Term 2 examination of classes 10 and 12. As all are aware, the board has made some changes in the question paper pattern of Term 2 as compared to Term 1, which we would be analyzing in detail in the next 30 minutes. I hope you all will agree with me if I say that the pandemic has opened up a whole world of challenges and opportunities to us. We teachers are embarking into the new roles of YouTubers, bloggers, trainers, and whatnot. The variety of new roles boosts our confidence and vouch our professional growth. Collaboration is a success mantra of these times. Let me introduce myself. I am Lata Jairam, the moderator for the session. I am the Vice Principal of Bhavan's Munshi Vidyashram, Cochin, Kerala. And with me are our three eminent panelists. Srimati Bini Verghese, PGT in Computer Science, Rajagiri Public School, Cochin. Srimati Indrani Haridasan, PGT in Computer Science, Bhavan's Adarsh Vidyalaya, Kakanad, Cochin. And Sri Charian Abraham, PGT in Computer Science, St. Anthony's Public School, Kottayam. Let me wholeheartedly welcome all three of you to this session. Before we start the discussion, I have a few observations to be shared. As far as computer science subject is concerned, the division of syllabus was done in a flawless manner by the board. Python coding, which needed a lot of drilling, more of concept-oriented topics, was allotted in Term 1. Teachers got time to equip themselves. Term 2 portions covered the topics which are more familiar: SQL, networking, and a little Python, including connectivity. They were relatively easy topics and could be covered within the given time. All of us had a sigh of relief on 14 Jan 2022 when the SQPs for all subjects were uploaded in the board's website. At the first sight, we were happy to see that the pattern of the QP is not much different from the previous years. If I go for a macro analysis, there are 7 2-mark questions, 3 3-mark questions, and 3 4-mark questions of the total 13 questions, summing to 35 marks. Questions 7, 8, and 12 carry internal choice too. The SQP pattern, as I said, gave a big relief to the teachers as it was similar to Esther years. As Term 2 practical exam is also SQL based, it is closely connected to the theory part. Let me move on to the panelists now. Bini, what do you think about the Python and connectivity questions in the sample question paper? What do you think should be the strategy of the teachers?
Thank you, Lada ma'am. I would like to go into the SQP of Class 12 paper, Computer Science paper. I'm sharing my screen with you all so that you can see. I hope my screen is visible. Question 8, you see question 8. It's a stack-based program First of all, let me tell you, out of 35 marks, Python programming is only 5 marks. 5 marks, out of which 3 is allotted for stack and 2 for Python MySQL connectivity. And out of 3 marks, there's an internal choice as was specified by Latha ma'am already in the introduction. Question 8 has got an internal choice, 2 stack-based programs, and they're asking us to make a complete program. This complete program means it should include the push, the pop, and the display. So here, if you look at it, I'll go into the marking scheme also to give you a fair idea about how it is. So they have allotted 1 mark for the push, 1 mark for the pop. So children should be aware of how the marking scheme is. So they're giving 1 mark for the push, 1 mark for the pop, and 1 mark for the display. And this is a very important point. That is, if it is to push according to the condition given in the question, and also for the pop, if it is empty, if it is not empty, return it, otherwise return none. Okay, so these 2 parts are supposed to be covered. I mean, the students should get enough practice of this in the class. The teacher should have equipped them about how it is done. Now, this is a 3-mark question that is allotted for stack. Now, coming to Python MySQL connectivity, that's question number 4. Question 4, I'm going to the question. Question 4, it is a very simple 2-mark question, and where a simple statement was given based on Python MySQL connectivity, and very simple, how many records will be fetched. Or they can ask, okay, fetch many. What is the difference between fetch many and fetch one, or fetch one and fetch all? Like that, you could expect questions like that. And what would be the data type? They've asked next is the data type. I think they're focusing on any 2 very simple questions. It could be, one could be read or something like that. How to read records from a Python MySQL connectivity from a table. It could be, I don't think they will ask us very complicated questions in this part. It's just 2 marks allotted over here. That's all from my side. I think I would have answered all. Need a lot of practice for stack. Stack, of course, we need a lot of practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Bini. So Indrani and Cherian, do you want to add on to this? Any points from your side?
Latha ma'am, I just want to add a point here. We need not expect just simple questions like just pushing and popping from a normal data structure like a list or a dictionary. We can also try training children on little complicated programs like how to reverse a string using a stack, or probably to check how a balanced the expression. All this you can incorporate in your lab exercise.
I want to add on those high-level programs, as we were saying about the stack. I think we can include that in the record book, in the record file, and we can test them on that during the practical exam. Like reversing a string, converting a decimal number to binary, to check if a string is palindrome, checking the parenthesis in arithmetic expression. I think we can include all those high-level programs of stack in the record file, which will give the students more insight onto the stack-based programs. But in the SQP, I think I mean, I'm not expecting anything more difficult than this, but we can, of course, give the students enough practice in the classroom.
Yes, Vinny, thank you so much. DBMS and SQL are generally liked by the students and teachers alike. If you observe the SQP, what do you think are the challenges and opportunities? Also, please tell us about the areas we need to focus. Over to you, Indrani.
Thank you, Latha ma'am, first of all, for this wonderful opportunity. I will be focusing on the chapters Database Management System and SQL, based on the sample question paper, of course. And I'm sure that all of us teachers would have gone through the sample question paper and figured out that 18 marks out of 35 are from these 2 chapters, which I should say is a little above 51% of the total marks. So that is one area that we can really focus on and help the children score really well for the exam. Now, if you look at the changes from the previous year's question paper, there is one major change that you will see. Earlier question papers, we just had one question based on the SQL. and which had two subparts. And the first one was generally a database concept theory question. And then you had questions wherein the child had to write the SQL queries or guess the output. Now, if you look at the sample question paper, you can see that these questions are actually scattered across all the three sections, which carries either 2 or 3 or 4 marks. So that is one major change that I see in the question paper as such. Now, let me just quickly share with you the sample question paper so that it is easier for you to understand as I speak. Just a minute, let me just get the share screen going. Yeah. So, if you look at the sample question paper, that is question 3, that is where the SQL part starts. Question 3, you can see that the first question is based on the data type concepts of SQL, which I think earlier we did not have any questions on SQL like this, wherein the child was tested on the data types. So we have to stress on all the important data types of SQL so that the child can answer any question based on this. Now, moving on to question number 5, it is something which we have seen earlier in the question paper. So it's a table-based question wherein the child has to guess the output of the 4 queries given. We normally do give enough practice on this type of question, but we can always tell them to be careful about the aggregate functions. It could be any simple query wherein it's a query wherein the where clause is used, or it could be a query using in, between, or like, or anything of that sort. So basically, it is just to guess the output. So when we ask the children to write the output, let us train them also to write the heading as well as the output. Then moving on to question number 6, as you can see, it's a different one this time. Actually, we have never seen such a question before. The first sub-question says, write a command to view the list of tables in the database. So here, you can expect any query like how to create a database, how to show the names of all the databases, or it could be even how to use a database. So it could be even a DDL command, which we have not seen earlier. Then question number 6, subpart 2. Here, if you see, the question is to differentiate between equijoin and natural join. So let me just stress on the fact that as per our syllabus, we have only 3 joins, and they are equijoin, natural join, and cross join. So as teachers, we have to clearly define and make the students understand the difference between equijoin and natural join. So based on this concept, they can either get a theory question or a question wherein they have to write the query. Now, moving on to question number 7, it's a table-based question. Even though a table is given, the questions are based on the database concepts. So this question 7 has an internal choice, but then we can expect that the questions which you get under this section could be based on some database concepts like degree, cardinality, tuple, attribute, or it could be even any of the keys that is that we teach in the lessons. So the keys that we need to really stress on are the primary key, alternate key, candidate key. And this time around, we have the foreign key also included in the syllabus. So there we have to pay attention. We will not find many questions in the previous question papers, but let us try to gather some questions based on the foreign key. And then as you can see in this question itself, they've asked what is the foreign key based on the 2 tables given. So we have to give enough practice on the children on this question for them to identify which is the column which is establishing the link between the 2 tables. Moving on to section B, 3-mark question. That is question 9. There are again 2 subparts. This first question is again a new type. If you see here, the child is asked to write a command which would add a new column into an existing table. So here again, the child is being tested on the alter table command. So instead of this, we can expect a command how to drop a column or modify a column. And if you had paid attention to the curriculum, you would have seen that this time we even have to teach them how to add and remove a primary key also from the table. So that also we can expect under this or somewhere in the question paper. So let us train them and let the students be prepared to attempt any kind of question based on the alter table command. Now, this question is something which we have seen earlier. Children can easily classify the DDL and DML commands. We do give enough practice for that. Moving on to 10th question, this is again new for a computer science student. This question normally comes for the IP, but this is a new question for computer science, wherein the child has to first create a database, and then he or she will have to create a table inside it. Now, it is not simply creating a table. The child may be even tested on the concept of constraints. So here again, let me stress on the fact that we just have to cover 3 constraints. One being the primary key, the second one being not null, and the unique constraint. So let us give enough practice for creating the table using the simple constraints so that the child can attempt it with all confidence. Now moving on to the last section, section C, 11th question. This is something which we all are familiar with. It could be either a 1 table question or it could be based on 2 tables. And in the sample paper, they have just given 4 queries, wherein they have to write the SQL queries. So in general, if we look at it, we can say that we can expect a question on order by or group by, 1 question either on any join. It could be natural join or equi join, and any other DML command can come in place of the 2 questions. So now, as I was going through the question paper, I was reminded about the valuation term, and we generally see that the children tend to get the queries wrong, wherein they have to use the group by clause. So as experienced teachers, we should train our students to look for words, keywords like department wise, or it could be each department, which will give a clue to the student that he or she will have to use the group by clause. Another common mistake that we've seen over the years is that whenever this child is writing a joining query, in the joining condition, the student generally writes the column name first, dot the table name, whereas it should be the other way around. So as teachers, we have to tell the students to be careful about that as well. And one last observation from this question, I thought I'll just share this also with you. If you look at the last question here, this is to display the department ID from the table employee without repetition. Luckily, it is given without repetition, which is a clear indication that the child has to use distinct. But we cannot expect this clarity in the question every time. So even if it is framed differently, for example, to display the different department IDs, then also the child should be able to comprehend and use the distinct clause in the query. So that's all from my side. These are the few observations that I made from the sample question paper. Overall, I think SQL is not going to trouble neither the students nor the teachers. We should end up happy writing these answers. Over to you. That's all. Lata ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Indrani. Thank you for that exhaustive and comprehensive analysis of the questions from DBMS and SQL. So exactly what we had been doing, as you said, more than 50% of the marks children can score from this particular topic. And normally we used to train them using the previous year's question papers. But I think this year we may have to either use some of the informatics practices question papers, or you may have to, train them with certain, bringing up questions by customizing or relating it to the current SQP. And as rightly said by you, we could also find the importance for the DDL queries, which we were not seeing over these essay years. So now we find that DDL queries are given more importance in this sample question paper. So I think teachers need to, focus on that. Now I think we'll move on to our next panelist. One interesting fact about the question number 2, when we come to computer networking, part 2, is that the options are listed out so that the possible answers are limited. Now, this is one area where always we have problem as far as networking is concerned. So, Cherian, please tell us about the preparations that need to be given to the students as far as computer network topics are concerned.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you, Miss, for inviting me to this panel discussion. So, as we know, in the sample question paper, the mark share for networking is 10 marks. So, I will share my screen for the questions.
So by the time Cherian shares the screen, Bini, do you want to add on to what Indrani was talking about DBMS?
Yeah, I have on question number 10. If you look at question number 10, they're asking us to create a table. Do you think that since foreign key is included this year, do you think that they may ask us to create a foreign key in one of the tables, giving two tables to create?
Yeah, I think we can expect always whenever we prepare our children, let us push it to a little higher level, and you know, we can do that.
Okay, Miss, can I continue?
Yeah, please.
Okay. From section A, there are two questions. Sub-questions are there. Expand the following: SMTP and XML. So in networking, as we know, so many terms are there. So definitely there will be expansion of these terms. And a student should be very thorough with all the expansions right from ARPANET to end of the www. It comes like that. And in the second question, you can see out of the following, which is the fastest wired and wireless medium of transmission. So in some questions, the students need to select the best possible answer. Anything can be an answer, but the most suitable answer must be selected. Otherwise, he may not get the credit for his answer. And
sorry to interrupt. I think one of you can share the screen for Cherian, because there is some issue maybe when he shares. You can continue to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for section C, it is a 4-mark question, and it is based on topology: star topology, ring topology, and bus topology. So here it is given as advantages and 2 disadvantages of star topology. Definitely, we can expect this type of questions. It may be for comparing topologies. It may ask you to compare topologies, star or bus. So students should be given a brief discussion on these 3 topologies. Directly you can give, the teachers can give the differences between topologies. And then we have in the second part, in the section C again, web hosting, or it is a from question number 12. It is an or question. Internal choice is also there, but it is don't depend on the choice. Definitely students should be given the differences between topology and other terms. Now we have circuit switching and packet switching, message switching also, it can be there. So 2 questions, 2 plus 2, 4-mark questions are there. And in C++ also we have the 13th question, networking. So the student should be given clear picture about how networking is done, how switches are used, how gateway is used. And this particular question is very familiar with the CPP students, the teachers. Already we did all these things. The same type of questions were there. So this time also this networking problem is there. And here when we deal with the distance between 2 buildings, we need to say that our maximum, the repeater must be placed if the distance between 2 buildings is more than 70. And students should be given a clear distinction between repeater and the hub and switch. So sometimes even hub and switch is practically it is 2 different devices. And a clear picture of WAN, LAN, WAN, and all those things should be given. So I think from networking side, if the student is concentrating more on the theory topics, he can easily score this 10 marks. And it is better to go through the topics given in term 1 also. Sometimes like cyber security, all those cyber law, all those things are there. Definitely the question can come from that side also. We can't say that it is out of syllabus, but it is there in the syllabus. And some technology based questions can also be expected. So that's all from my side, Ms.
Thank you, Cherian. Thank you so much. So as you said, question number 13, the application questions, the teachers need to emphasize a few things, particularly when, again, when I just recall the experience in the evaluation camp, where we find that many children do not draw the cable layout. They just mention the topology, but we need to tell our children that you need to draw the figure very clearly and where the repeater needs to be placed. And you also rightly mentioned about the distance for the repeaters, even though there is a confusion normally between 70 meters and 100 meters. I think 70 meters will be, I mean, that is a, thing which you can tell your students to be on the safer side. So drawing the cable layout. So thank you for that. Bini, Indrani, can you, do you want to add anything more to what Charyan had talked about networking?
Yeah, I just want to add just a point here actually. Networking, even though the topics look simple and we just take it for granted that children would somehow learn and mark up and do well, it is really difficult from the child's perspective. There is a lot of theory that which unusually they have to, they are just used to writing programs. So computer science students, they find it difficult. So as teachers, I think we have to give enough practice. Take small tests on this topic, which will definitely help the students to do well.
Yeah, I've got to add also something like this paper that is in SQP. I've seen a lot of theory questions. Children, these are CS students. They may not be so much proficient in mugging up, the definitions and doing it. So I think we can tell them, like when we go for evaluation, also we also tell, like when we are correcting the papers, like if they've given an example and they're bringing out the difference or they're giving us the feature of a particular definition through an example, I think we can allot marks. I mean, through a concept. A concept is being, we want to check if the child knows it. So if he's able to bring out the concept through an example, I think that will also, we can give them practice on that.
Okay, thank you, Bini. Can you also briefly, talk about the practical modalities, quick, you can just have a walk around practical, yeah.
I'll just share my screen. So about the practicals, I've just taken a blueprint of term 2. So this is a total mark distribution is 15 marks. It's for 1.5 hours. Let's not go strictly by that 1.5 hours. I'll tell you, explain to you why. Because here we have got lab test, one Python program, which could be a stack-based or Python MySQL connectivity. And there is 3 SQL queries and 2 output questions the child has to work out. So, and the distribution of mark is like this. Lab test is about 6 marks, which includes both the SQL and the Python program. The record file is 3 marks, project plus Viva is 5 marks, and Viva is 1 mark. Now, going into each of them, the lab test. Now, one Python program could be an application of a stack or Python MySQL connectivity, which is allowed just 2 marks. Now, how do we allow 2 marks for such a voluminous program such as Python MySQL connectivity? Or if you take application for a stack, application of stack. So we ideally 1 mark for the logic and 1 mark for the output. And the application of stack as was covered by Indrani ma'am already, and she was suggesting on giving a higher level, higher order programs. Yes, these are the some of the listing. I mean, we can give any number. There are numerous programs that we can give stack application. I just listed out some of them which we can put in the record file. And also the child is expected to do push, pop, and display. It is not just push and display or pop and display or just one part. You have to do both. For 1.5 hours, and I think this is very simple program which they can easily finish it in 1 hour's time. But going to Python MySQL connectivity, here the child has to create the database, create the table, insert records into the table, and then write the Python program. And for that 1.5 hours might not be sufficient. I think we can allot some more time. That flexibility be there with the external and the internal teacher. The way we can allot some more time for the child who's getting this as a program to do for practicals. Now they can use any pattern, format or percentages, any pattern they can use to display. And I've just listed DML commands, but we need not restrict to that. We can have DDL commands also, because that is now we can see in the SQP, they are focusing on the DDL commands as well as already specified. So I think we can include that in our Python MySQL connectivity also. Let's put MySQL tables, it is about 4 marks. And here we can, ideally record file should have minimum 15. That depends upon the student's strength. So if you have some 40 students, I think 15 SQL statements would be too few. So we can have around 35 to 40 of them, and at least 50% of them should be joint queries. So that when we give 3 SQL queries, out of that 1 should be a joint query, and 2 could be based on either of the tables. So at least 1 should be a joint query, and the rest 2, and we can include like where, between, like, group by, order by, aggregate, joint query. I mean, we can include all these clauses in those 3. Now let me come to the output questions. In output questions, the child is not supposed to work it out on the computer. He's supposed to use pen and paper and find out the output. That could be based on a totally separate table given by the teacher to the student, or it could be based on the table that was already given to them. That is totally up to the internal external teacher. Now the record file. When we go to the record file, it is ideally 3 stack-based programs and should be two minimum programs. That could be a menu-driven program, like you're doing a select statement and an update, delete and insert. You could have anything, but the change should be reflected. Otherwise, the examiner will not be able to see that. And minimum 15 questions, this I already covered. That depends on totally the student's strength. If it's only 15 questions, I said minimum, that taking into consideration that school has only 15 students or 10 students. But I think we can have more than that. That gives better practice for the theoretic papers. Now project, I'm sure project, all the schools have already finished their project. There's nothing much that I can include in this. One thing that we have to take note is project should be done ideally by a group of not more than 3 students. Something that we have to focus on. So maximum 3, minimum 2. The final coding, the program need not be exactly as what they have done in term 1, could be something different. I would have encompassed some better option or better idea when doing the second term. When they're actually going into coding, I think they can do that, and they can include any concept beyond the syllabus. I think we should not restrict the student. One very important factor is in the project, they must use files. So binary files, so Python, MySQL connectivity, or CSV. At least 1 file type of storage of data in the hard disk they must opt for. They can opt for minimum 1, but they can opt for more than 1 also. It's totally up to the child. Next, we come to the last part of the lab, that is Viva question. Project Viva is 5 marks, out of which there is a Viva on the project. That depends on the teacher. The teacher could say 3 marks for the project and 2 marks Viva, or 2 marks project, 3 marks. So that totally depends on the external and internal teacher. And the Viva 1 mark, which I specified, is totally based on anywhere in the syllabus. I think we come to the end. I hope I have covered every nuance of the project.
Yeah, definitely. You have covered the entire thing. Thank you, Bini. I think the difficulty level of the SQP is not so high for a student who has prepared all the 3 topics well. And an average learner can easily score anywhere between 80 to 90%. Nevertheless, it is advisable that we need to take our students to a little higher level by pushing them so that the high achievers are benefited and some centums are also scored. Now, one last question to the panelists as we are running out of time. What is your expectation about the performance of your students? Can you share any other secrets with our teachers? So we can start with Indrani.
Again, thank you, ma'am. The only last tip that I would say would be to just train the students, train until they are perfect. What we can do is we can just give them, if we have a collection of previous year's question papers, we can give them. But unfortunately, Python, we have to start collecting the question papers. But we can be little happy because we still have SQL and network questions from the CS collection that we have over the years. So just let them do and work out the problems on their own in small groups. So I ask my students just to come to school and take up this activity as a a stress reliever kind of thing. When they are fed up of physics, chemistry, and maths, that's what I do generally.
Correct. Thank you, Indrani. So, Bini, yeah.
As Indrani ma'am rightly put it, I always tell them that computer science is a stress reliever. It is not a stress giver like other subjects. And when in between the physics and all, they can just take half an hour time, do some, take some program or solve some questions in SQL. It relaxes your mind tremendously. And what I make them do is that make them do a lot of questions, plenty of questions. It's not even 1 minute is wasted, just not doing anything in a computer science class. Give them plenty of practice. And I think we can populate, with my skill is concerned, I populate the record book with not just 15, I make them turn 80 to 90 questions of various types. Practicing. So they are totally, because they don't lose mark over there at all. That's what I think.
Thank you. Cherian, any tips from your side?
What I do is that whenever I finish some topic or some chapters, I used to take previous year's question papers. 5 to 6 question papers will be done. From that particular chapter, all the questions will be covered. So once we complete the syllabus, I'll be covering 5 or 6, 7 sample question paper, a board question paper itself. And then again, we will be giving some practice questions. Only through practice, we can score marks. Students should not take it as a light subject, but must go for very good practice. And what we lack here is that in this time we don't have that much lab practice. I don't know how it is going to affect the students.
Yes, correct.
That's all for me.
Yeah, thank you all my dear panelists. Now it's time to wind up. I hope this discussion is really, it will definitely benefit the class 12 computer science teachers and their students. I thank all my panel members for their commitment and take this opportunity to thank the Confederation of Kerala Sahodaya Complexes for this wonderful initiative. The panelists have really enriched and enlightened all of us. Thank you so much. On behalf of the entire team here, I wish all the very best to all the computer science teachers and the students who are going to appear for the Term 2 board examination during April-May 2022. May God bless all of us. Thank you.